All right, it is a couple minutes past the hour. We'll go ahead and get started. And Spencer, I'll go ahead and let you take over.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Jenny, and thank you so much for joining all of us today. My name is Spencer Claiborne. I work in business development here at Meridian Business. We are a professional services firm with offices in Kansas City and Omaha, helping organizations leverage the NetSuite platform to improve and transform their businesses. This is our partner spotlight series where we bring in wonderful software partners, solutions partners that offer wonderful products like ZoneReporting, pre-built options to allow people to get additional value out of their NetSuite ERP. We've had a couple successful projects together with ZoneReporting, and really appreciate the ability to integrate directly with NetSuite and Power BI. Kind of more broadly, what we have seen a large amount of interest in the analytics and reporting space when we're having conversations with prospects or with our existing clients. Already on NetSuite or on a competitor platform. So we're really excited for the opportunity to have the team from ZoneReporting here to talk to us a little bit about their solution and give us a demo. We can hop to the next slide. So yeah, just a little bit briefly about who we are. We're a Midwest-based NetSuite certified partner. We sell, implement, and offer managed services and optimization for the NetSuite platform. It is our bread and butter, and we're really proud of what we do. I think next slide, please. That takes it over to ZoneReporting. So Sean, I will kick it over to you.
Perfect. And thank you, Spencer. And thank you everyone who joined us today. Going on what Spencer said, it's amazing getting to work with firms such as Meridian, who specialize in so many different ways, have a great team over there. So anything you're looking to do, whether you know us over at ZoneReporting and them over at Meridian, they are one of the premier partners in the space. And it's been a pleasure getting to work with Spencer and Jenny and the team. And thank you again for having us. My name is Sean Weigler. I am our account executive over here at ZoneReporting. In addition, run our global sales program. Spent 3 years at NetSuite working in the manufacturing and distribution space, and fell in love with Power BI. I had a couple customers actually use it when I was there, and CEO at the time pulled me over, and now I'm over in this space and looking forward to presenting to you today. Jim, quick introduction, then I'll get into it.
Sure. Yeah. Good to see everyone. Thanks for the Meridian team for having us. Jim Doyle, I'm a solution consultant here at Zone, specializing in our ZoneReporting product, which we'll be going through today. My background, similar to Sean, is very much in the NetSuite space. I worked for NetSuite as a solution consultant, worked for a NetSuite solution provider as well, providing NetSuite services before coming over to Zone. So really familiar with NetSuite ERP, what it does really well, and where we can kind of extend the reporting capabilities to an industry-leading BI tool like Power BI. So yeah, excited to get into it today.
Awesome. In a normal presentation, we'd say feel free to jump in, ask any questions throughout. Matter of time and getting you the most content and what the product has to offer. We're going to save those for the end. So if you think of something, just raise your hand and make sure you jot it down, and we'll attack them all at the end. And if there's anything else, we're always happy to set up further demonstrations for you and the team. But without further ado, we are ZoneReporting. We are the only pre-built NetSuite reporting platform inside of Power BI. So what differentiates us? And the first is going to be what you heard from both Jim and myself. Our team came from NetSuite, whether we were solution consultant, account executives, solution providers, implementers. We came from NetSuite, had a love for Power BI, and are now over here at ZoneReporting, supplying supply chain, SaaS, financial, and dashboarding out of the box for NetSuite customers who really are getting tired of exporting to Excel or just running those pretty standard safe searches many times over. We have now 200 customers running on ZoneReporting, and they really don't have a perfect fit, because what our software did is we learned the intricacies of NetSuite. There are areas where it excels, and there's areas where there's functional gaps. And what we went out to do was complete those gaps, whether you are any type of business, global manufacturers, beer distribution companies, CEO advisory firms, financial and accounting reporting, analytics, dashboarding, It's a need throughout the space, and it's one of the reasons business intelligence and analytics is one of the fastest growing tools that NetSuite customers are looking for. We're a certified NetSuite partner and certified by Microsoft, so we maintain updates for you on both fronts, so you never have to worry about that. And we bring over AICPA, SOC 2 compliance, so on and so forth. So beyond just our team coming from NetSuite and our expertise, what's our product actually doing? What are we looking to accomplish? And, you know, we found out from hundreds of NetSuite implementations as the Meridian team as well, when it came to reporting analytics, you were having to go to 1, 2, 3 different providers to solve these 5 areas you see on the screen. First, all your data, unlimited joins. Depending on how long you've been in a NetSuite, you may have experienced these pains or you may have not. Between your accounting, your inventory data, or your forecasting, your budgeting, there's intricacies in NetSuite that don't standard connect. You're having to export, build multiple searches to get to those single pieces of information. What we've done is we built our own connector into NetSuite, and then we export all your data at its lowest form to replicate it and reconcile it in Power BI. So you're able to marry any piece of information coming from whether that's your NetSuite or alternative platforms, so you can have a single use for all reporting. Second is we're going to act as that single enterprise-wide reporting platform. So as I just mentioned, beyond having pre-built connections to NetSuite, we bring in Google Analytics, Google AdWords. If you're using Salesforce or HubSpot for CRM, if you're new to NetSuite and you just implemented and you want more data beyond trial balances, we can bring in historical transaction level details so you can have immediate demand planning and forecasting out of the box. Today, we're going to be going over our financial platform, our operational, and then diving into our supply chain and SaaS as well. In addition, we have an Amazon package too, whether you're Vendor Central, Seller Central, FBA. There's a ton of out-of-the-box dashboards we provide to our customers to really encompass all their business has to offer. Important piece to note as well, great thing about Power BI is you don't need a NetSuite license to have an account. Power BI licenses are $10 a user, and you're able to share them via Excel, PowerPoint, PDF. However, your employees at the business are looking to view their data, there's many different ways to do it at a very reasonable cost. One of the reasons we chose the platform, not only because it's #1 by Gartner, but because it really works well for the customers. Third, advanced analytics. We're not saying this is ChatGPT, but they're bringing in ChatGPT functionality. Power BI, you're able to ask the system questions. You're going to have tables and graphs built out for you on the fly, whether you're looking for a sales by sales rep report or you're accounting by different periods. You can ask it and have it build it for you based on the data that's being consumed. Reporting automation. This one's pretty simple. Because we have replicated and reconciled all your data into Power BI, we're going to refresh all that data either daily or throughout the day. So you will always have the most up-to-date information, and you'll never have to continually build reports or schedule them again, as you'll be getting that information on a scheduled basis. And the last piece is data backup. Really, the most important thing to note here is, God forbid those instances where NetSuite does go down for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30, whatever long that period is, there's obviously business operations that need to run. You'll still be able to access all your data from your latest refresh into Power BI. Perfect. My last slide before I hand it off to Jim and we get to the exciting demonstration with the visuals, which is what brought me here in the first place. But team came from NetSuite. That's what we were accomplishing on the last screen, the 5 flaws that we found. And then you say, okay, what is all included in the offering? First is the NetSuite connector. So we built our own connector into NetSuite. We don't leverage any internal ODBC, Suite Analytics Connect. We go in directly. By doing this, we go over the kind of hindering aspects of the system, which allow us to get all your data its lowest form, replicated and reconciled in Power BI. Then you have our common data model. This is the heart and soul of our product. It's what took us 3.5 years to build, where we are bringing over 100% of your transactions at line level. All your key NetSuite record types, including those different custom fields that you have in the business, time dimensions, time intelligence, over 300 different KPIs. Really cool is everything links back to NetSuite, so you're able to drill down to exactly where that data is coming from. We also have our dashboard report starter pack. As I mentioned about a minute or so ago, this is where we have all of your finance, operations, supply chain dashboards, all the different things you're looking for. It comes included out of the box. What we'll be covering today. Then you're going to have the ability to embed these dashboards inside of NetSuite, which we will show you here in a minute. budget and forecast import, and then we do a whole Power BI training as well. And with everything I just said, we implement this product in 2 to 4 weeks, and I only need about 30 minutes to an hour of your time to accomplish that. Jim, without further ado, I will hand it off to you, my friend.
All right. And I will share my screen. So Sean, just give me a thumbs up if you're able to see my NetSuite dashboard here.
I am.
Good to go. All right, great.
Yep.
Yeah, so let's go ahead. We'll get into the demo. I'm going to start in NetSuite, only going to spend about a minute here. Really just want to highlight that, as Sean mentioned, as we're building out these interactive dynamic reports in Power BI, we can always display them back onto a NetSuite dashboard. All right, so I have this embedded right into a portlet. It's dynamic, so I'm slicing and dicing. I can have multiple tabs, right? I can even bring in external data sources. For example, we connect to Google AdWords, Google Analytics out of the box. So here I'm looking at web activity, which is coming from Google, versus revenue, which is coming from NetSuite. So we're blending those data sources here, even though I don't have a direct integration between NetSuite and Google. Because I'm bringing it into Power BI, I can display it on a NetSuite dashboard, which is an interesting use case. I used to get asked about that all the time when I worked for NetSuite. So that's one way for users to consume the reports, is on a NetSuite dashboard. Now switching over to Power BI itself, and I'm logged in right now through the web service version of Power BI. There's also a desktop application. You can use either. And I'm logged in with a user ID. Now, when we implement, we can set up your Power BI users to inherit your role-based access and securities from your NetSuite users, right? So we can have a consistent control for who can edit and view data, between NetSuite and Power BI. Now, before I go through our pre-built reports, I'm going to hit edit, which puts me into report building mode, because I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about our data model here on the far right, because this is really our crown jewel. It's what makes us unique, what we bring to the table, and it's that full NetSuite data model replicated in Power BI with that live connection back to NetSuite. It's certified by both Microsoft and NetSuite. Took over 3 years to develop, right? And you should see some familiar tables here. It's always going to look a little different depending on the NetSuite modules and features you're using, but certainly, budgets, chart of accounts, class, department, location. We've got our customer table, our items, any of the, if you're a SaaS business and you're using any of NetSuite's advanced revenue management, we're bringing in those tables, all the way down to the transaction line level. So all standard NetSuite records and fields. And then we'll also bring in any custom fields, custom records, custom segments that you have as well. So the idea is, again, NetSuite replicated in Power BI. We'll also, at that point, add in any additional data sources. So we can connect to pretty much anything. Here you see Salesforce tables. We can connect to Salesforce CRM, Google AdWords, Google Analytics. So the idea is that we map everything into the same data model, so it's really easy to blend data sources across your reports if needed. And then we also have these measures, which are the metrics and the KPI definitions for all sorts of different financial, measures, inventory KPIs, SaaS KPIs. We'll see a lot of these in the pre-built reports, but do just want to highlight that we have those definitions pre-built for you. So if I want to build a report, I can do it from scratch, right? If I just hit a new page, open up a new page, blank canvas, and I'm going to build out a page to answer some basic business questions around top 10 customers. So I'll start by dragging in my customers, customer name right from the customer table. So here's all my NetSuite customers. And now I'll go up, if we want to look at top 10, I'll go into my P&L measures and we'll bring in our revenue. So I've got all my customers, total revenue. At this point, I can filter it down. So we'll look at just our top 10 customers by total revenue. And I'll convert this to a funnel. So here we've got a quick funnel showing our top 10 customers by total revenue. Now, if I want a little bit more detail on the items that they're purchasing, or I want to see, gross margin or units sold, or look at this on a monthly basis, I can always copy and paste this and convert it to a matrix and start to add in some of that detail. So I'll copy it. We'll turn this into a matrix. Here's all your different visualization options that Power BI offers. And now that I have a matrix, I can add in some more measures. So let's also look at units sold and gross margin. So now we've got top 10 customers, units sold, revenue, and gross margin. And now I can add in item detail. If we want to see the different classes of items that they're buying, I'll drag in my class. Now I can drag in individual items as well. So we're starting to build out that hierarchy, that reporting hierarchy here. And then last step would be to add in posting period so that we can view this on a monthly basis. And so now what I've built out in 2 minutes, right, is this matrix that shows me top 10 customers. I can see month by month units sold, revenue, and margin. If I open up a customer bird books, I can see the classes that they're purchasing. And then within those classes, the individual items, right? So for this assembly, we're able to see margin for that item for that customer. So you can start to imagine all the different segments that you're using in NetSuite, whether we want to look at this by location, by sales rep, by territory, subsidiary, right? It really is going to be easy for your end users to build out these report pages and kind of tailor them to what they specifically need to see. And you can always modify the existing reports too. So we're going to go through these pre-builts here in a second. Think of these like templates that are designed to get you 80 or 90% of the way there. And then I could come in and say, okay, for our financial overview, which is showing top 10 customers, items, and classes, income statement, and some KPIs, I can, click on a class and it's going to filter. So now I can see for this class, how much have we sold to our top 10 customers, what the top items are for that class, income statement and KPIs, or I can look at the same view for a customer or an item. But let's say that I'm not using the class segment in NetSuite. I can just select this, right? I can duplicate the report page, make my own version, and I'll just switch out, I'll deselect class, and instead I'll select, we'll look at our top 10 sales reps. All right, so I now switched out sales rep, right? So we can see our top 10 reps, still going to be dynamic, so I can click my reps and get more information. I could also add in, here we're looking at total revenue for our top 10 customers. Maybe I also want to add in and look at total revenue, and I want to look at gross margin. So I just check that measure box, and now we've got a dark blue bar for gross margin. So the bottom line is, between the data model and the pre-built reports, we get you close to the end zone, and then it's really just a matter of personalizing them, modifying them to look at any, key areas that would be unique to your business. And you can, of course, change the color scheme. You can add in your own, branding and everything like that as well. You don't have to go with our black and blue color scheme if you don't want to. Okay, so that covers the data model. Let me start to go through some of these pre-built reports. Now, these are all available with our solution. It's just going to be an exercise during implementation of you identifying the ones that you want turned on in your account. If they don't apply to the business, then we don't want to have a bunch of noise in your Power BI that isn't going to be applicable. But just keep that in mind as we're going through these. So starting with a financial overview, we can also get more granular. Here's a flash report where we're looking at daily trends, daily sales and shipping trends. And I can, of course, slice this by class, right? I could add a slicer here for location. If I want to view this by location, probably makes sense. But the idea here is we can get pretty granular in support of daily operations. So you don't just have to think of this as a financial reporting tool for building, month-end report packages, right? We can also use this for day-to-day operations. Now, that being said, it is a great tool for building out report packages for boards, for ownership groups, for just key stakeholders in the company. We always get asked about waterfall charts. Here's a revenue waterfall where I'm looking at change in revenue by product class. And if I wanted to get this out of Power BI or distribute it, I can analyze in Excel. I can send it to PowerPoint. I can actually embed live reports in PowerPoint, which is similar to the Smart View feature of Hyperion or NetSuite planning and budgeting, if you're familiar with it. But all that means is that I am embedding live dynamic reports into PowerPoint, and then I just need to refresh the deck, which I have saved to SharePoint, or wherever you want to save it. And so I don't have to now deal with version control and downloading a new version to make sure everyone's on the same copy, right? So that's a pretty popular feature, as well as sending it to PDF. Can share any of these with digital links. I can chat with these in Teams. If you're using Microsoft Teams, you can embed reports into your chats and your channels. Can create email subscriptions, so we can send reports out to individuals on an automated scheduled basis. And then there's also a commentary tool, so users can comment back and forth as they're consuming the reports. You can tag coworkers, and then they'll get an email alert that, hey, someone is commenting and tagging you on this report and directing you to it. So just a ton of great ways to collaborate and then publish or distribute reports in an automated and controlled way out to those who need to view them. And really tight integration with all those Office 365 productivity apps, Excel, PowerPoint, apps, Power Automate if you're using any of those. Power BI, of course, works really well with the rest of that suite. Okay, so the next 4 reports, these are all top line analysis reports. I'll use revenue analysis as an example. They all kind of look the same, but of course they're measuring different metrics. Here we're looking at volume and revenue. And I'll say traditionally, when you're doing volume and revenue type analysis, you've got a 20-page report pack, and you're going from page 1 to 7 to 12, back to 5, trying to find correlation and uncover insight. What we want to do is get all the data working together on one page. And so here I can see, all right, our average revenue per unit for all our product classes is $677. Well, down here in my units sold pie chart, I can see we're selling a ton of this product class, this card product class. So if I click on it, I can learn a little bit more about it, and it's going to cross filter my entire page. So now I'm looking at, for that card product class, we're a little bit above average revenue per unit, so good value, right? Consistent trend there. I already know we're selling a ton of it because, right, I can see it in my pie chart, but we've barely penetrated into our top 20 customers. So this is a great upsell or a cross-sell opportunity. And really just depending on how you identify opportunity in your existing customer base or in the market, whether that's physical territory, whether it's channels or marketplaces, right? You can always swap out that segment. But the idea is we get all the data working together for you all on one page. And so it's a lot easier to uncover insight. Okay, moving forward then. So our next several reports, these are all key segment analysis. Now, the bottom line is, as long as you're capturing it consistently in NetSuite, you can create a key segment analysis page for it. These are just the ones that we offer out of the box. And I'll use customer as an example. So here I can see my customer profitability for all my customers. I can search for a specific customer or click on a customer, and now it's going to give me a customer specific monthly P&L, right? Units sold and gross margins, just really quick access to customer specific financial information. And then customer analysis is going to take this a step further. So here I can see, again, a ton of KPIs and trended reports for all my customers. But if I want to, I can click on one or search for one, and it's going to filter. So now I can see for bird books, revenue rank, how important are they to the business, margin and volume trends on a trailing 12-month basis, bird book specific KPIs. So this is kind of like a customer 360 experience. And then I can also drill into these reports too. So if I hover over our January revenue for bird books, I can see total revenue 387,000. If I right click, I can actually drill through to the line level detail. And so here I can see the transaction lines that are summing to that revenue amount. So these are all our NetSuite transaction lines. And then I have a hyperlink that can drill me back into the transaction in NetSuite itself. So I can get to that invoice or that sales order, purchase order, journal entry right from Power BI, as long as I have NetSuite access. So we support that full drill through, which is, of course, very helpful. Next couple pages, these are starting to use more data mining and machine learning. Key influencers allows you to select a specific measure or KPI and ask the system which key segments are causing it to increase or decrease. So here, I can see it's going to be mostly items. If I'm looking at gross margin per unit, I can look at it from an impact, total dollar versus like a count or a frequency perspective. All this is doing is mining your NetSuite data and giving you a head start on identifying your key influencers. I can also ask the system questions. Here with the natural language query, Sean mentioned, ChatGPT. It's similar in that it's, again, mining your NetSuite data. And as long as you know how your fields are named in NetSuite, I could come in here and ask, let's look at total revenue by sales rep, right? I can just type that in and it's going to give me a quick bar chart, showing me total revenue by sales rep. Right? So you can start to build out basic reports if you just know the naming conventions in NetSuite. We have pages for AR and AP as well. Accounts receivable, just looking at DSO, turnover, 30, 60, 90 mix. Same with AP. You can get this kind of information out of NetSuite, but it's usually a couple different saved searches and reports. It's not going to be, visually depicted or trended in the same way. We just like to put the whole process in front of you on one page. And then by extension, cash flow forecasting, we can also help with. Here I'm looking at a weekly forecast, but you could also look at this monthly, might make more sense. And we're bringing in all our inflows and outflows from NetSuite and account balances. And then we can also bring in additional inflows and outflows. As long as you have them in a spreadsheet, we can always link a spreadsheet as a data source and bring those in so that you can hone in a more accurate near-term cash forecast. When it comes to financial reporting, we can help you set up income statements, balance sheets, and we can help you set up different views and formats of these. So kind of the age-old NetSuite challenge with financial reporting is, hey, I need to dump this into Excel to format it for a specific view for a specific group, right? And it's manual every time. You're doing Excel gymnastics. What we want to do is get your formats set up in Power BI, and then it's automated anytime you need it. You don't have to deal with doing it, reformatting in Excel. Here I have income statement where I'm looking at versus previous month versus trailing 12 month, full dollar, percent revenue, dollar per unit. So a very specific, actionable, sort of a managerial view of our income statement analysis. We could also look at, a class comparison. Right here, I'm looking at our different classes as well as doing year-over-year analysis, all the way to just a plain vanilla income statement. But we can customize this. So if you need to roll up your accounts differently, if you need to do different groupings, or you have EBITDA line that you want to add in with some calculations, we can do all that. And then it's automated anytime you need it. We can also help with budget versus actual. So we can help you bring in unlimited budget versions. So I have two different versions here. And what we do during implementation is we set you up with our budget template in Excel, and then you'll just save your budget records to Azure Blob Container or SharePoint, just in that spreadsheet template, and that'll be linked to Power BI. So anytime you update that file or you add a new budget version or scenario, Power BI will pick it up and bring it in so we can do budget versus actual. So here I'm looking at monthly budget versus actual at the account level, budgets coming in from that spreadsheet template that we set you up with, actuals coming in from NetSuite. We find the budget record in NetSuite is a little bit rigid. and not very flexible. And so that's why we use our own budget template in Excel. And then just to round out the financials, we have customizable balance sheet. I used to get asked all the time when I worked for NetSuite, why can't I just see a monthly balance sheet? It's one of those, I would say, sort of random limitations or gaps. So we provide that at least, monthly balance sheet, and then can always customize from here as well. You see, I'm looking at multiple subsidiaries here. We support all one world, multi-subsidiary, multi-currency, consolidated reporting. We can do all that as well. Okay, so that covers our financial reports. I'll go ahead and hit, we have supply chain reports as well. So I'll hit the high points in here. And really, this is an index showing you the different areas we can help with, looking at trends, looking at inventory, and then also looking at point in time reporting around items, vendors, and then open POs, open sales orders, things like that. So I'll just start with our value page. So here I can see inventory value by my various segments, so I can better understand where we have cash tied up in inventory, whether it's in material, finished good, whether it's in specific locations or product classes. Just gives you a better understanding of where you stand there. We have key ratios to help you understand turnover ratio, right? GMROI, inventory months on hand. Again, I can look at different warehouses, so I can see, okay, if I select our North Carolina warehouse, we've got some pretty disturbing trends here, right? We're barely profitable, taking on a ton of inventory, turnovers down, versus our UK warehouse where we have more positive trends. So you can start to identify what may be driving positive or negative trends overall throughout the business. And it's really easy to switch out the slicers I have over here. You can really just select any segment that you want to as a slicer and use it to filter. We have a supply chain management cost page. This is typically pretty heavily personalized by clients depending on how they want to view their costs. Here I can see broken down by department, different supply chain costs, and then I can see how those costs relate as a percent of revenue, per unit sold. So it's just helping you keep your finger on the pulse of those different overhead and supply chain costs, making sure that it's not overly impacting profitability at the end of the day. We can also look at things like sell-through rate, right? This is kind of basic math. There's a bunch of different ways to look at sell-through rates. So we provide these 4 different ways to look at it. But again, we can always adjust we just need to know the business rules of how you want to define your different KPIs. We can always make adjustments to that. We can also look at essentially, vendor supplier performance and then our own internal order management performance. So here I'm looking at, on the left, my purchase order percent on time in full and percent on time and in full. Now this is looking at line level expected receipt dates on your purchase orders or your inbound shipments. We don't want to just go based on the date that the PO is entered in the system, because you may be doing your demand and supply planning, right? So you've got planned supply, and so you're looking at line level expected dates. So this is definitely a more accurate way to capture vendor or supplier reliability relative to your planning. And then here on the right, similar, except we're looking at our own internal order management, sales orders on time, in full, and on time and in full. Again, going based on that planned ship date at the line level on your sales orders. This is a great way to better understand your own warehouse performance, even if you're using 3PLs. As long as you're capturing that fulfillment data, you can see how your different 3PLs are performing. We have pages for amount and units purchased. So here I can see all our purchasing history and KPIs, right? I can see it by vendor, by item. I could search for a vendor, or I could select a vendor, Stevenson Custom. They're our largest supplier. When I click on them, it's going to show me the different items that we purchased from Stevenson Custom. Stevenson Custom KPIs, cost per unit purchased for Stevenson Custom. We actually have a whole page dedicated to cost per unit. So here I can see, again, cost per unit. I could search for that card that we were purchasing from Stevenson Custom and see, okay, here's our 4 supply options for that card item. What's our current and prior year cost per unit? Really helpful to have that information if you're looking to negotiate prices or just looking at your different sourcing options. And then we have open order pages. This is showing open purchase orders. So I can see all my open PO activity, right? By vendor, by item. If I click on a vendor, click on Flores Enterprises, it's going to show me all the different items that make up their open PO amounts and quantities. And then same if I click on an item, I can see the different vendors who we currently have on order with. And then the same idea for sales orders, just a really good point in time view of all my open order data by customer, by item. If I click on Bishop Coffee, I can again see the different items we owe them. Last couple here, units by location. This is essentially an inventory status report, right? Where I'm looking at all my different locations, and then I can see my different inventory statuses up here, right? And then for each class and item, so I can better understand stock position. I can also see average units fulfilled per week and weeks of stock. Item analysis. This is like item 360, right? So I can see information for all my items, right? Or I can search for specific items, specific classes, see stock out risk for top 200 items, days average purchase or PO cycle time by item, by vendor. So just a good place to go for all that item information. And then same for vendor analysis. So I can see all my different vendors, can click on a vendor. I'll click on Stevenson Custom again. Here we can see those 2 components that we've been purchasing from them. If I'm using standard cost, I can see that cost variance data. So again, just a good place to go for that vendor 360 view. Whether you want to look at all your suppliers, groups of suppliers or categories, or down to the individual supplier. And then finally, projected inventory. So this is a weekly view. Again, we can look at it monthly if that makes more sense, just depending on how you plan. And supply is typically going to come from NetSuite purchase orders, work orders, transfer orders, all those supply transactions. And then demand can come from a demand forecast in Excel. It can come from a demand plan in NetSuite, come from actual demand of future order or orders of future ship dates. Really just depends. But ultimately what we want to get to is that projected ending inventory by planning period out across your planning horizon. So if we're projected to stock out of a high priority item in January, I'm identifying that now, I'm being notified, and I'm adjusting our sourcing so that we can accommodate that expected demand. It's all about being proactive and balancing inventory levels so that you can meet all that demand without having to take on a ton of inventory just to compensate for risk. And that is our supply chain reports. Now I'll switch over and hit some of our SaaS reports. So this is for any NetSuite clients that are using, that have subscriptions or are using NetSuite revenue management or advanced revenue management ARM to manage revenue recognition and deferred revenue. Really challenging to report on this just in native NetSuite for a number of reasons. And so we have these reports here. I can see active customers, MRR, right? LTV to CAC. I can look at this by revenue type or revenue group or even cohort. We have measures that define quarterly and annual cohorts, so you can look at how groups of customers are performing based on when you onboarded them. KPI trends. This is going to look at just a bunch of different KPIs. So I can see, customer lifetime, lifetime value, right? Customer acquisition cost, churn. We have all sorts of measures set up so you can analyze churn. And again, I can look at this by revenue group, revenue type, see how we're doing with our consulting services versus software, which is on a subscription basis. So just a really good page to understand trends throughout the business. SaaS KPIs at least. Benchmarks. This is an interesting page. So one thing that you're able to do is bring in standards or targets. Here we have these benchmark lines in yellow. These are just sourced from a specific SaaS CFO source as kind of industry benchmarks, but we can always set these benchmarks to, depending on the goals that you have as a business and where your business is at in its life cycle, right? So easy to adjust those. Rule of 40, if you're looking to be acquired, this is something that executives are always kind of keeping an eye on, understanding sum of revenue growth plus EBITDA, right? So you can see, and then down here, you can see the math, monthly math that's going into this. And we need to ideally be at that threshold. And then MRR and ARR. Here I'm looking at MRR, but I could also have a similar view for ARR. You can see this by, class, by cohort, by revenue group, same idea. Okay, now these next four, these are all different revenue analysis. And I would say that what makes these uniquely valuable to NetSuite customers is if I'm using NetSuite Advanced Revenue Management, then I'm recognizing revenue with a journal entry, RevRec journal entry. That does not have a line item on it. Now, what we can do is, because we have unlimited joins, we can take that RevRec journal, it's linked back to the revenue element, the revenue arrangement, all the way back to the originating invoice or sales order that does have line level item on it, customer at the header level. And so because we are linking through multiple records, we can now do item analysis, even though we don't have an item on our journal entry. And so this kind of analysis is really difficult to do in NetSuite natively, just because of the limitations with the join structure. But we can look at revenue by group, by item, by customer, by class, and you're not inhibited by those limitations as far as joining records and all those ARM records, which if you're using ARM, you're kind of familiar with likely with what I'm saying. We can look at different waterfalls. Here's a cohort waterfall. So I'm looking at different SaaS KPIs for cohort groups, right? So these are my quarterly cohorts, and I can just see how they're performing quarter over quarter. All right, so as I scroll down, newer and newer cohorts start to see we'll have less and less data for them. But this just helps you, understand how groups of customers are doing based on date that they were onboarded. And then we can also look at churn. Here's graph, this is visualized churn by cohort quarterly. Could also look at it annually. Forecasting. This allows us to look at customer count, right? And I can see my actual customer growth rolling 12-month basis. And then I can input a forecast customer growth. Same with monthly revenue per customer. I can input some assumptions here, and this is going to help me generate a monthly revenue forecast. So I'm looking at historical trends on a rolling 12-month basis, but then I can also input and override those with my forecast growth percentages. So it can help me better understand a revenue forecast. Deferred revenue waterfall. So we've had clients, SaaS companies that have bought ZoneReporting just for the deferred revenue waterfalls. Here I'm looking at by customer. You could also look at it by item or by, subsidiary, right? Any of those segments. But ultimately, we can see our beginning balance, our ending balance, and then all those billings and different line items that ultimately lead us to that ending balance per period moving forward. So this is just a waterfall waterfall chart, essentially showing deferred revenue. And then last thing I'll hit is going to be our customer growth table. This just shows some of the math that goes into things like calculating churn and growth rate. So you can see number of customers, lost customers, average customers just per month. And that rounds out our SaaS reports. The last thing I wanted to show today was KPI scorecarding feature. This is a popular feature. It's a Power BI feature. We're starting to see more and more clients adopt it. But what it allows you to do is take these business measures and assign individuals to monitor them or to own that KPI. And so I've been assigned inventory turnover, right? Or, we have HR operations. You can add in your own metrics here. And then you can set targets, right? So I can open up and see I'm responsible for inventory turnover. I can see a target, right? I can see if I'm behind target. I can comment on this, right? Or I can check in and leave a note. I can even drill through and open up the report that this is connected to back in Power BI. It would be our supply chain report package, right? So I can drill through and see how I'm being tracked on this based on the trend. So this is a really interesting feature if you're looking to take business goals and extend those and make those individual performance goals as well, and just extend ownership out to the process owners. And that wraps up what I had planned to go through. So I guess at this point, I can pause, and I don't know if there's any like chat capabilities to ask questions, or if there's anything there. If not, I can turn it back over to you, Sean, to pull up the slides, or the Meridian team. I hope that this was helpful for those attending, and just giving an overview of kind of what we can do and how we can extend NetSuite to Power BI.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jim. And Spencer, are you able to open up the chat for questions?
Let me see what I can do. I believe so. If anybody has any questions and you'd like to raise your hand, I can enable your microphone that way. But let me see if I can open up the chat here.
And if not, Sean and I are always available to answer questions as well.
Yeah. Yeah, as Jim said, if you're interested in the product, want to learn more, have us build out a few reports, discuss pricing, implementation, all that. I know Spencer and the team over at Meridian will be sharing this webinar and our information after the call. So please feel free to reach out, and we're happy to set that up for you.
Unfortunately, I don't have the permissions to be able to open up the chat for this webinar pre-configured for me. Yeah, Jim and Sean, thank you so much. I really appreciate being able to see the ways in which you can integrate and use your NetSuite data directly in your kind of everyday workflows. That PowerPoint connector, the live dashboard embedding is quite impressive, because I know that I've spent a lot of time preparing specific slides for specific reports that would completely eliminate. So yeah, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody, and thank you for joining us for this webinar. Just a quick reminder, our next webinar next month is going to be with ChargeBee. We've had some successful subscription billing projects for NetSuite clients with ChargeBee. PayStand after that, and then SourceDay. SourceDay is kind of supply chain automation. So looking forward to all of those. We will send you email invites for them, and thanks for joining us today.
Pleasure.
Thanks,
Thanks
everyone.
for having us.
Take
Bye.
care, everyone. Bye-bye.